All right. Time to get the show on the road. Sorry for the last minute live, guys. I want to try and do a live at least every Monday and Friday. I'm thinking about doing that from now on. Don't know how that's going to go, but I want to try and do that around 6 o'clock. I want to try and do that. So I'll keep working some things out here and there and figure out exactly what kind of schedule that we would like to have. So, but what I wanted to do is, since my last live stream, a lot has happened. A lot has happened. So there's some new stuff that's coming out about the excuse me, guys, I just ate. About the Charlie Kirk situation. And then there is also the Portland thing that has been happening ever since. And then, well, actually, no, I think this has been going on before Charlie was even shot, I think. Because it's been over 100 days now. Yeah. Sorry, guys. There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right. So there are these situations that's already been happening. Now, apparently, America is looking at getting into another conflict of some kind. But we're going to be getting into that here in a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about what's going on, but we're going to get into it. So this one may be a little bit of a longer live stream. Don't know. But I want to, help you guys to figure out what the fuck is going on. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first video here from Valhalla VFT. He's got some good stuff. He's a good guy. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this video here.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and in a wild turn of events, as if this Charlie Kirk situation needed any more of those, we now have a couple different influencers who have come out and confirmed.
Hey, chat real quick, can you let me know that my audio is doing fine? I want to make sure that I'm good.
That Charlie Kirk did, in fact, have an autopsy, which is what we really would expect. However, they are claiming they actually know exactly what is said in that medical examiner's report, and we're going to take a look at what this report actually says. And I got to tell you guys, I don't know how to put this nicely. If this medical examiner report or autopsy report is true, the FBI and the prosecution are, let me put it lightly, I guess, because essentially the idea that Tyler Robinson took the shot from where he took it, at the angle he took it, and caused the damage it did to Charlie with the round that's used is actually not possible. So this is going to be a very interesting video. Let's jump in. Let's talk about it.
So what they have been saying, and this is what I do know, what they've been saying is that he was shot from the front, and then it did some kind of mental gymnastics here, was trying to figure out where to go to where it was trying to figure out where to go for lunch, and hit the C2, traveled all the way down to the C7, and then somehow went out the backside. Right. That that it came down at an angle, hit him right here, because this is where the bullet came out. Right. Well, that's where I say it came out, but supposedly this is where the bullet went in. But they're saying it came up here, hit him in the jaw, and then that doesn't make any sense.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps the channel. All right, let's do this, guys. All right, first thing I got to say up front, like always, is we are operating under massive assumptions here that this information is true, it is correct, because I'll tell you when it comes to an autopsy report, A, it's private, 2, it's evidence for a massive murder trial, and the idea that the law enforcement are just handing this out to influencers, not a case, so this is hearsay through hearsay, okay, at the end of the day. Somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, all right? So take all this with a massive grain of salt. I'm not saying these people are liars. I'm just saying that's what we're operating under. All right, first thing we're going to take a look at is what this report says.
My understanding from speaking with a couple of people high up at Turning Point USA, they let me know that the injury took place right below the jaw in the C2.
Uh-oh.
The bullet crashed through C2 all the way through C7
Uh-oh.
And then they found the bullet lodged in that meaty area.
Hi, I'm working. I'm working. Okay, I'm working. I have been giving you attention all day. Why are you being so needy? Come on, say hi to chat. Say hi to chat. Say hi to chat, guys. Or say it, guys. Say hi to chat. Guys, say hi to Sky. Say hi to Sky. She had to come and say hi. So we'll give her a couple of seconds of attention. Okay. Oh, and there she goes. She had enough. All right, let's get back to it.
Area around T1, the thoracic first vertebrae.
All right, so I don't know Stephen Gardner. I don't really watch his stuff. I'm going to assume he's operating in good faith here and that he actually heard what he heard. And
So I didn't watch all of the interview with Stephen Gardner and I think it was Laura. But it was an absolute clown show. I would definitely take a look at it just to kind of be aware of some of the talking points. And I say that because with everything that's been coming out, especially with all of the analysis that have been done by people who have actually been overseas and shot, people who know entrance wounds, exit wounds, or entrance wounds and exit wounds, he doesn't bring any of those people on, or at least from what I've seen. But he brings someone on who has apparently have connections, right? But going through the entirety of the interview, because I did skip around and I went to the important parts, right? She didn't answer one of the most important questions, right? Which was the whole narrative about the bullet being lodged in his neck. And so she never really answered that. And I think that's a huge disservice to the American people. And it's just, yeah. So I don't listen to a lot of Stephen Gardner, and that's why. Because I do believe that he is shilling for the government right now. I really do. It could be that he doesn't really know what's going on. It could be that. But given the fact that he has all of these connections and he's, I mean, leagues of a bigger YouTuber than what I am, I don't believe he just doesn't know what's going on. So,
you know, somebody else also came out and said that they've seen or supposedly heard about this same autopsy report.
I confirmed, obviously, because I have connections, and I confirmed that the autopsy was done. I don't want to say too much, but the autopsy yielded where the entry wound was and how the bullet killed him. It's already been determined. They found the bullet lodged in his body. They can tell you.
Bro, that is not what happened. I really hate that is the fucking narrative that everyone is saying. He was not... A 30-06 round would tear through that amount of flesh super easily. Okay? I grew up hunting. I know what a 30-06 round... I know what a 30-06 round could do. I know what an 8mm round can do. Right? I've seen 8mm go through vertebra, go through skulls, go through organs, no problem. So a 30-06 round is a little bit, is if I remember correctly, it's quite a bit bigger than an 8mm. So, dude, that amount of damage, he would have almost been decapitated. If he was really shot in the neck with a 30-06 round, he would have almost been decapitated. I mean, yes, immediately incapacitated for sure, but you know. Anyways, another if he was shot in the front, we would have saw overspray, right? We would have saw it, but we didn't see that, did we? No, we didn't. We saw blood coming out of his, his neck from the front left side. Okay. Now that's not indicative of a entrance or exit wound, but the size of the hole is what indicates an entrance and exit wound. I've already done a video on this, but kind of break things down. Your exit wound is going to be quite a bit bigger than your exit or your entrance wound, right? So, and that's just because when the round makes contact with whatever, and as it moves through, there's going to be some tumbling. There's going to be some redirection, right, of the travel. So that's just going to happen. The thing is that there's no way, there is no way that he would have been hit where they say he was hit, and what we saw on the footage. There's just no way. There's no way. And Valhalla, he's going to get into this here in a couple of seconds, but I just wanted to note that because people like Brandon, people like Steven Gardner, I believe. Now, I again, right? I'm not going to point fingers. I'm not going to say that they know, right, that they're lying. But what I believe is that they're lying, right? And that they're helping to tell a narrative for a specific reason. Whatever reason that is, I don't know. But with everything that's been coming out, right? You can't trust what the FBI is saying because they've been lying to us ever since this whole thing fucking started. And so just by virtue of that, we really shouldn't believe what these guys are saying if they're saying the same things that the FBI are saying. Right? Because we have hundreds, if not thousands of people pointing out something, all saying the same thing, that is completely contradictory to the narrative.
Exactly what was severed, what killed him, where the bullet traveled from his neck down through his body. They have it all, fragmentation of the round that spouted through his body. They have all of that.
Okay, they have it all. They've got it proved. Let's see if this even works mathematically or scientifically. Let's jump into it. All right, guys, so basically a middle school math problem. This isn't that hard to figure out. We know that, according to the medical examiner report, this 30-06 round came in, hit him in the C2, traveled down. All right, you guys are going to notice some huge problems with this right away, but let's go ahead and, just look at this objectively. All right, we got a protractor out. Let's put that right here on the C2. Okay, we do know, again, from where Tyler Robinson was shooting, it was a 9-degree slope with a 9-degree offset, essentially meaning almost directly on at a 9-degree slope, which we can travel out from our protractor from the C2 here at 9 degrees. Perfect. All right, as we pull the protractor off, what's the first huge glaring issue you guys are going to see here? Oh, well, if Charlie Kirk was sitting level, sort of parallel to the ground with his jaw, which he was, let me show you that real quick. All right, so we can see Charlie Kirk is not got his head all the way back like this. He's sitting pretty much flat, looking at the crowd, sort of jaw parallel to the ground as he gets hit. Boom, hit. So you can see that, right? It's actually a little bit of a tilt down even, okay? So let's look at this anatomically. All right, this is essentially exactly how Charlie Kirk is sitting. And they want to tell you the medical examiner report confirms he was first hit in the C2 vertebrae right below the base of the skull.
See, any kind of critical thinking skills would tell you that if he was first hit with the C2, right, and there is there's no sign of any kind of facial damage, that whatever the narrative is complete bullshit, right? This right here would tell you that he was struck from a different position, right, a different location, that would indicate him essentially getting struck here first and then traveling down all the way to C7 and then coming out of his neck. That's what that would say, right? But instead, what they want us all to believe, is that he was somehow struck in the jaw or just below the jaw and then hit his C2, traveled all the way down to the C7, and then somehow no exit wound. It was lodged in his neck. A 30-06 round lodged in his neck. Right.
Biggest problem I see with that, from the angle Tyler Robinson shoots him from, is that would have hit him in the teeth, or even above the teeth. There is no possible way that this round came from a 9-degree angle and a 9-degree slope and hit the C2 while not blowing through Charlie Kirk's face. It's not a thing. We also can see the C2 is not where that gunshot wound is. I can show you that right here. All right, as you can see here, yeah, he's got some tilt back now after he's been hit, but that round, sorry for my beard, that round is 2-3 inches below his chin. Okay, this round is not all the way up, just underneath the base of the jaw. It's pretty far down. I would say that's closer to the C4 or the C5, to where that round, to me, looks like he got hit. So big problems right away with this medical examiner report, but let's keep looking at this. All right, so we know this is not possible. Okay, this definitely didn't happen. But if we look at the actual sort of injury to Kirk, looks like he's shot closer to about right here, okay, on that left side of the neck. Now, if we look at it this way, now we can make this work for the location of the shot if it enters and hits the C5, but that's not what they're saying. They're saying it hit the C2, traveled down all his vertebrae. It doesn't work. Next thing with this, we're talking about a 30-06 round. Right now you have this 30-06 round traveling at 24 to 2,700 feet per second, or even less, doesn't even matter. Hits him, let's say, hits him in the C2 if this magic bullet that doesn't go through.
Yeah, see, so they're saying that he was hit at the C2, right? But he was hit, well, I wouldn't even say he was hit right there. He was hit a little bit lower, right? Because he was hit right here. I would say that would probably be about C5, C6. And that just makes no sense at all. At all, right? So how is it that he was hit here and then it just went up and then back down? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all.
His face somehow. That then refracts straight down into the T1. Yeah, that's not what a 30-06 round is going to do if it hits a human neck vertebrae. We know it's going to blow right through. But even if there was some weird refraction, bullets aren't going to refract almost 90 degrees. We've talked about that, and then keep their actual velocity to be able to do that much damage. Not really a thing. Again, so with just basic middle school math, we already disproved this whole medical examiner's report, or the fact that the shot was taken from where it was taken, a 9-degree slope from straight on. Charlie Kirk sitting flat, parallel chin to the ground. Not possible. It would have hit him in the teeth, not 5 inches lower than the teeth. It's not a thing. So because we know that's not possible, if we're assuming the medical examiner report is true and accurate, now we have to look at alternatives to how this could have taken place. Okay, so.
Well, so, I mean, what the alternative, right? But what the actual event, what actually happened was that he, and this is the only thing that really makes sense, is that he was struck, right at the base of the skull on his right side, right? That struck his C2, right? Possibly C3, C4, and then came out of his neck, right? This is what I was talking about earlier, entrance and exit wounds. The exit wound is going to be bigger, always. It's going to be bigger than your entrance wound, right? And so the fact that, one, it took so long for an autopsy, and then two, here's something interesting. Utah is one of the only states, I believe, where they are not required to release an autopsy. So they can deny requests for an autopsy. They can do that. Weird, right? So, the fact that that's the case, it's the only thing that really makes sense, right? And I've been doing a little bit of research myself, and the angle that it happened at would be one of the buildings off to his right, obviously, but there's a white building that is off to his right, and right beside that building, there's a building with a bunch of glass, right? And in one of the footages, you can see a reflection of a muzzle flash, right? And this is where a lot of people saw that and they were like, "Oh, hey, there's something's not right here," because that matches up pretty much with the shot, right? And so, that being the case, if it was a 30-06 round, it would have sounded like a bomb going off, especially with how open and all of the opportunity for those sound waves to bounce off and come back at each other. Right? It would have sounded pretty loud. I know the difference between suppressed fire and actual fire, right? And so the difference between that, I'll break this down real quick. The difference between suppressed rifles with a suppressor and one that's not is the fact that when you have a suppressor, it kind of sounds like a click and then you hitting two 2x4s together, right? Whereas if you have a rifle that's unsuppressed, it's going to sound it's going to sound like a super big boom, right? And the fact that we heard more of a click and then something quieter would absolutely indicate a suppressor being used. And something that I found super interesting while I was doing my own analysis into the footage myself is that, and I came across this accidentally, right? I tried to tip Ian Carroll onto this stuff, and he didn't really understand what I was saying. But then again, I was using some military language, and that it completely tracks. But anyways, what I found was that the FBI had adopted the Flow 556 suppressor into their. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. They had adopted the Flow 556K suppressor into the department back in 2022. So, explain to me how it is that they adopted that into the department when, one, they don't even really need it, right? They don't need it at all. I don't understand why we have a federal agency that is, awarding contracts for suppressors, right? That doesn't make any sense. If we happen to have hostage situations, that's the whole reason for SWAT. So, it's just really weird. It's just really weird to me how we see evidence of a suppressed rifle being used. And I just happen to have found that. I've been trying to tell people about it. So guys, please, you can share that video that I did. It was my own analysis. I ask that you would share that because that needs to be talked about too. It could be just a coincidence, right? It could be just my tinfoil hat, but I don't think that that's the case. I think there's a reason for that, right? I mean, one, the fact that the FBI is being so non-transparent with us and they're trying to direct the situation only leads to some kind of involvement, right? But what I found out also recently from Ian is the FBI, or excuse me, the CIA, right, has some pretty I should say close ties. Yeah, that's the word. Pretty close ties with college grounds for recruitment, but Utah especially because there's a department within the Utah University where the CIA has a lot of control over, and I thought that was super interesting. And there's also the fact that they are paving over the grass that Charlie was sitting on top of. So I found that interesting too. But yeah, a lot of things aren't making sense. A lot of things aren't making sense at all. But they would much rather have us believe in this bogus narrative, and they're actually trying to close the case as quickly as possible. I find it so disheartening that our FBI is really trying super hard to convince all of us that Tyler is the lone shooter, that he's the lone gunman, that no one else was behind it, and they're trying to close this super quickly. And I think think that they're also using other things that are going on as a means to kind of escape that accountability. Don't know. I'm just kind of speculating here. With us possibly going to war, right? That's another thing too. So, but yeah, I don't believe a single thing that the FBI is saying. I really don't. And then he also gets into the interview from Stephen and Laura here.
Let's talk about a few. All right, so I've seen a bunch of different people talking about now, because of this report, this has to prove that
let's see, where is it? No. Oh wait, no. That was already. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to look it up. So let's.
This almost makes me laugh doing this.
So let's actually look that up. Because I want to show you this, guys. So where is that interview? This guy does a lot of interviews. I think this was a couple of days ago. Okay, just so I'm not taking so much time here. Stephen Gardner, actually, let's see. No. So, anyways, Stephen was asking a question, right? And this is later on in the interview. Stephen was asking a question, and this is supposedly someone who has connections with the medical examiner who did the autopsy, right? Oh yeah, Kash Patel was absolutely ill. He wasn't even speaking. He wasn't even the one. He wasn't even the one that was letting us know what was going on, right? But Steven had asked a question to Laura, and he had asked about the bullet that was lodged in his neck, right? And she absolutely did not have an answer for that. And she pretty much deflected. And I found that to be incredibly interesting. And I'm trying to find that interview. I'm trying to find it, and for some reason I cannot find it. I don't know why I can't find it. I might have to look for it here in a little bit, but yeah, there wasn't an answer for that question. But one thing that I find incredibly interesting to me is that the state of Utah doesn't have to release, or excuse me, they can deny requests for autopsies. So honestly, guys, in my honest opinion, I think this is going to come down to the government continuing to lie to us, to push a narrative that Charlie was shot by Tyler, and that's just going to be it. Regardless of what evidence we give them, regardless of what we show them, right, and we stick their noses in, they're going to go with a specific narrative. So, but that's what I wanted to talk about. Some new developments there. And it really aggravates me that a lot of these bigger YouTubers are trying to toe this narrative that he was shot in the front, that the round was lodged in his neck, and that he was shot at a specific angle that has no, or excuse me, that is completely contradictory of what we saw from the footage, right? I hate being lied to. I know you guys hate being lied to. So, we're going to find the truth. All right. But in other news, I wanted to head over to Langley Outdoors Academy because you guys know that there were a couple of leftist wokies, right, that had drove into I can't remember if it was an ICE facility. I think it was a couple of ICE vehicles, right? But I'm pretty sure they killed one ICE agent. And yeah, Chris, you're absolutely right, man. That's exactly what it was. It's exactly what it was. Not because the blood was pouring out, but because of the size of it, right? Now, like I said, entrance wounds will always be smaller than exit wounds, excuse me. And for that fact alone, the reason why his neck wasn't absolutely shredded is because there wasn't enough meat, right, for the expansion of the round. Because what happens when a round makes contact with any kind of anything that's hitting, right, it's gonna make contact, and then the entrance wound is gonna be small. It's gonna expand because of the way that the ballistics work. And and then if there's enough there will be a pretty big exit wound. Let me see here. Now that we've already watched this, let's see. Let's see. Ballistics. All right. Let's see here. All right. We'll take a look at this.
Well, today we're going to be doing a
Baseball season, huh? I don't really watch too much sports. Yeah, it does. It does create a shockwave. Just depends on how much circumference, how much meat is there for it. So let's go ahead and skip ahead and see. Oh, well, is there like a? I might have to go to high speed ballistics. I know that they would have. Yeah. Oh, ballistic high speed. That's right. I know that they would have something. So let's see here. Let's try and find a video. Sorry guys, I'm kind of ill prepared here. Let's see. Is there anything? Listen, I love the fact that they're blowing shit up. Right? Oh, see, right there. Here we go.
Welcome to Ballistic High Speed.
I love the fact that they go and blow shit up. I'm a guy. I love explosions, but they do too much of it. You gotta do something else, man. All right, so let's see here. Where is the? All right. Okay, so when this is the way that ballistics work, right? You see here that hardly anything is really tore up. Now you do see blood, right? Because that's gonna happen. But as it moves through, right? Because there's enough meat there for the shock wave to hit, right? And for the bullet to expand, and it does. And then as it's moving through, right? As it's moving through, the backside is absolutely just shredded. And that is that's the front side. And see, you can see how bad that is there, but look at the backside. The backside is so much worse, right? You see that? Backside is so much worse. And that's just what ballistics do, right? So they are saying that this right here is an entrance wound. Makes no sense at all. None. So over here to Portland. I'm sorry. I'm kind of behind on comments here. Does the bullet type material it's made of make a difference at that range? Yeah, actually. So obviously 30-06 round is going to be pretty devastating. I mean, that's why I was saying if he was really hit with 30-06 round, he would have almost been decapitated, right? So it would have been a lot different if he was hit with let's say a 5.56 or maybe a 22 or a 2.23, which is, I mean, it's pretty much kind of the same deal of 5.56, pretty much the same thing. It would have been less devastating. It would have been pretty devastating, but it would have been less devastating, right? So, it type of the round type absolutely makes a difference for sure. It does, yeah. Just like Trump's ear, I doubt you can be grazed by a higher power bullet. Trump got absolutely lucky. He got lucky with that shot. I think that was a 5.56, wasn't it? I think that was a 5.56 that he got shot in the ear with. But the bullet just grazed his ear. Right? And you saw all the blood coming from there. So you can imagine, what would happen if, that hit Charlie. Yeah, so that would have been pretty nasty stuff. Okay, so if I remember correctly, there were a couple of leftist morons that had decided to drive into I believe a couple of ICE agents or a vehicle or something. And there was shots that were fired. I do know that specifically. There were shots that were fired from ICE, and I do believe one of the two people that were involved were killed, if I remember correctly. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this so that we're caught up to date here, and we'll talk about it.
Well, y'all, while you were having a good Saturday, watching potentially some football games, doing those last bits of the summer, getting into the fall, the Forces of Darkness and Antifa and all the gangs in Chicago were ramming federal agents in coordinated attack with 10 vehicles, which then shots were fired in order to defense while the Chicago Police Department was allegedly ordered to stand down. Guys, wow. Everything I'm going to show you right now is going to be linked in the description box below. This is absolute insanity, but what can you expect when you're dealing with someone who is actively losing like the left is? Everything's going to be linked. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on.
Bro, it's not just the left that's losing, it's all of us. Bro, because we've been convinced to get at each other's throats simply because of the way that we believe or vote. All of us are losing. You know who doesn't lose? The few at the top. That's who don't. Right? Because they have their bunkers. They have physical, tangible assets. Gold, silver. Hey, I'm working. You want to say hi to chat? Guys, you want to say hi to Sky? Come on. Come here. Come say hi. Come say hi. Come say hi. Since you gotta have your attention. I expect things to get a lot worse, right? Simply because there are too many people that can't think anything below surface level. And listen, that's going to be everywhere, right? That's going to be your leftists, that's going to be your leftists, that's going to be your moderates, and that's also going to be your people on the right, right? Because we've been trained since little kids to accept things at face value and accept things for just the way that they are, and to believe everything that we're spoon fed, pretty much in layman's terms. And so with a whole society like that, you know, it's hard to believe that people are going to do their own research on their own. Right. So
You guys get in here. Let me see you in the chat, audio, video, 5x5. Make sure we are good to go, and we will dive right into this. This is right off the presses. Looks like we are good to go. The emojis are flying. The chats are flying. Get that energy up, because we have got to talk about the high level of crazy of the wounded animal that is the left losing power, and they are thrashing about like a fish on a hooking line. All right, let's get into this. You can follow me on X at Braden LOA if you'd like. I am not going to bury the lead. Let's jump right in here. Make sure you get those chats, subscribe, like, share. Let's go. All right. This is something that I've been watching through today. I didn't get to do a video earlier this morning when I wanted to, but now I've got all the more data to show you guys, because this is bananas. Just in from Timcast News, Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin says law enforcement officers were ambushed this morning in Broadview, Chicago. 10 cars boxed them in and rammed their vehicles. 10 cars. Count them. 10. Okay, so that would mean coordination. If we're dealing with coordination at this point, that is a different level. That is a different level of escalation. Let's keep going. It gets even better. And by better, of course, I mean worse.
bro, that's more than coordination. That's more than coordination, right? That is very specifically an entire organization of people, right? These people are getting organized. Okay. See, this is exactly why I tell people, moderates and people on the right as well, look, you want to know why the people on the left are so successful at what they do is because they organize together under one banner, right? And anyone outside of that is considered an enemy, and they act against that, right? They do what they believe is the thing to do to get the point across, right? To get things done. And people on the right, people on the moderate side, we're not we're not organizing, right? We're not collecting together. We're not banding together, right? That's the problem. Is that we choose to just complain about things on the internet instead of taking action ourselves. What does that mean? Going out into the streets and protesting, right? Banding together, grouping together in large groups, because apparently a lot of the violence that happens, I see it all the time. There's like 1, 2, 3, or 4, conservatives or people on the right or moderates that absolutely get ganged up on by people on the left, right? It's because they're collecting together, right, in a lot of larger groups, and you just don't see that on the right. You don't even see that on the moderate side, right? And then a lot of us are wondering why, nothing's happening, right? Guys, look, if you want things to change, right, you got to change it. We're responsible for our own actions, right? So, and another thing that I see too from conservatives is that we don't defend ourselves. Well, I mean, I'm not a conservative, but we don't see these people defending themselves. I see video after video after video, story after story after story of people getting absolutely ganged up on, and no one is defending themselves. Guys, you have the right to defend yourself. We have the Second Amendment for a reason. Okay? This right here is the whole reason the militia was created. Okay? You got to understand that. If that guy is considering that as a planned what? I'd like to know what he thinks about January 6th. Was that considered planned? Well, I mean, what do you mean considered planned? Because there was an entire psyop to imprison people. Now there were some people that were doing some shady shit. Yes, that's true. But when you find out that the Capitol Hill officers let, these people in, right? And then even the people that weren't involved with the crowd, right, with the protest, were arrested. Start thinking about things, right? And the fact that I believe a couple of years prior, there was an actual attack on the Capitol, right, from leftists. Does no one remember that? There were fireworks going off, right? People were tossing fireworks, right, onto the Capitol, and because they were leftist, no one really did anything about it, right? But as soon as they're conservative, then there's a problem, right? So, yes, I do believe it was a coordinated psyop for sure, but you know, it's just like what I was saying again. You got to do something about it, right? You have to defend yourself. Nothing's going to change if you don't defend yourself, right? So,
an armed driver, previously flagged in a CBP intel bulletin for doxing agents and calling for violence, was shot after officers returned fire. No officers were seriously hurt. Good. The Chicago Police Department, under Governor Pritzker, has refused to secure the scene. Now, this was earlier reporting, and I wanted to let this percolate for a minute, but now I've got
the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene had meetings with Roger Stone and the Trump campaign before January 6th and Josh Hawley, there are a lot of things that they keep saying that we're tourists. Tourists or terrorists? Which one are you trying to say? I don't really listen to a lot of what those guys say anyways. I don't trust them. I don't trust them, right? We thought things were going to change under a new Trump administration. It's just business as usual, right? So I don't really trust anything those guys say. I don't trust anything that any one of them says, right? It is what it is, right? So, but yeah, please, if you can find some links, please email me those links or videos. Please send them to me. I greatly appreciate that, so I can take a look into them. But yeah, I don't know.
even more. And I'm going to say a little something to you guys who are just now getting in here. Make sure you're sending this out and sharing this out while we do this little word to each of you. Head on a swivel, please. You guys, we are entering a position now where the left is so badly losing in the eye of public perception, they have resorted to violence over and over and over again to complete and total unrest of what we're covering right now. They are losing.
That's another thing, too. I just put out a short about this maybe an hour or less ago, I believe. I saw a short from JD Delay, and there are people that are planning to use fentanyl. They are planning to lace fentanyl into candy and giving them to your children. Okay, these people are planning to kill your children, right? Okay. So look, I don't understand this whole thing about trying to reach across the aisle. I really don't. Okay. I'm moderate. I'm not right. I'm not left. What I'm saying is that the people on the left, because these are the only people that I see it from, are the ones that are shutting down the conversation completely, right? There is no reasoning with these people. None at all. Yeah, well, here's the thing, is that all of them are colluding with each other, right? The reason I say that is because it's the majority of Republicans that had actually voted to seal up the Epstein files, excuse me. And that's just the truth, right? In the House Rules Committee, it was, before it said 8-4, and then when I checked it again, it was 5-7, or 7-5. Okay. In the Senate, it was a 51-49. Last time I checked it, right? to seal the files. Why then, when all of America is demanding transparency from our government about the Epstein files, that then the ones that we had voted in office, had voted into office to finally get something changed, to get something done, that then they voted to seal it up. Right. And listen, I don't like Chuck Schumer at all. I think Chuck Schumer is an absolute shill, right? But I think it's absolutely unreasonable how Chuck Schumer had, and it could be that they tried some underhanded things, right, to pass some things through, could be that. But the fact that there was a bill that was being put forth to force the government into transparency about the Epstein files, and the majority of Republicans are the ones that had voted to seal that away, that's incredibly frustrating and interesting. And this is why I say, it doesn't matter red or blue, they are of the same bird. Okay? So the only way that things are really going to change is if someone comes in, an average everyday American like you or I, and campaigns off of shit that actually really matters and does things that really matter. Okay? There needs to be a new party, the People's Party. And if I could run for president, I 100% would. Right. But another thing to think about too is that there have been third parties that have run, but it's so rigged that it's hard for a third party to even get to the state, or to even get to the debate stage, right? Because you have to reach a certain percentage of support before you even make it to debate. Don't worry, Chris. I'm reading your comments, bud. I really appreciate you engaging a lot, man. But how do you reason with uneducated people? That's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying. Here's the fact. It's not that they're uneducated. It's the fact that they are indoctrinated, right? They're taught to be, right, in a sense, uneducated, right? They're taught to think a specific way, and they're taught from childhood on up, right? That's the problem. And so when you're raised up, right, believing in one specific worldview, this is what religious people have problems with as well, is that your whole world is centered on one particular view of the world, and when someone comes to challenge that, it's pretty easy to get emotional. I understand that. I used to be religious myself. Trump's name is all over the files. I can guarantee you he is. Why else would he be saying that the Epstein files is a hoax, right? Why else would he be so iron-fisted on people demanding the Epstein list? Okay. Why is it that almost all, well, I mean, not all, but why is it that the majority to seal up the files were Republican, right? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Every single Republican voted for it to be sealed. No, not every Republican. There were 2 Republicans that voted against sealing the Epstein files in the Senate. But I do think all of the Republicans in the House Rules Committee actually voted to seal it up. I can't remember which 2 Republicans voted in favor of the transparency, but I do know 2 for sure. 2 for sure were had voted for that bill. So.
Public perception, and they're going to start lashing out. I told you they were going to do it a week ago. They're going to continue to do it because they are actively losing the one thing they care about the most, and that is power. Because the public has awoken to the crap that they are issuing out and dealing out. And honestly, it's all just an eye roll at this point. The Democrats have been playing this little cute game of their peaceful protests for about 5 to 6 years now. And honest to God, let me hear you in the chat if you are too, but I think that the public is kind of sick of this crap. There's nothing peaceful about this. If you have to buckle up with your mask, your like ventilator mask, you have to wear your little resistance scarves for Gaza conflict. If you got to wear backpacks and you're all ironclad in black and Antifa outfits with umbrellas and backpacks, we're all sick of it. That's really what you're dealing with. But let's continue. I digress. Let me hear you in the comments if you agree with that sentiment. And if you're just now getting in here, we are actively showing you what's happening in Chicago. Let's keep going. All right, so here's some more details. I only bring you the best, and it's all linked in the description box for your review. Breaking: federal law enforcement ambushed near Chicago. During a morning patrol in Broadview, near Chicago, multiple vehicles rammed federal law enforcement cars, boxing officers in before an armed suspect opened fire. Okay, guys.
I told you ever since the Charlie Kirk situation, I told you that.
At a certain point.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure my headset didn't do some stupid shit like it always does. Anyways, I told you that things were gonna get worse. Did I not? I told you ever since the Charlie Kirk situation that things were gonna continue to get worse, and here it is now, getting worse. I told you that this was gonna happen, right? So, the fact that we are now coming to armed conflict. Well, I mean, we've been in armed conflict for a while now, and that's simply because of, you know, the left absolutely losing their shit, as they always do, right? A whole political leaning filled with people who can't control their emotions, right? But now we have people who are getting out of their vehicles. They are ramming, right, federal agents, and they are opening fire on federal agents. Okay, I told you it was going to come to this. I told you way back when, right? I knew it was going to continue. I knew it was going to get worse. Excuse me, and I know it's going to continue to get worse, right? We're going to see, and for those of you who are just now joining, they are actively going after your children. They are planning to lace candy to your children, right, during Halloween as they're trick-or-treating. That's what they're planning on doing. Okay? There is no reasoning with these people. They have already chosen, right, their zealousness. Okay? Be no mistake, these people are zealots. They believe 1,000% in what they're doing. They believe that they're right. Okay? And they're more than happy to kill you, to kill your family, to kill your children. And so, how do you handle that situation? Right? There's nothing else to do but to separate yourself from them. Okay? And to be ready to defend yourself. There's nothing else that you can do. Everything that we have tried, we have already done. Or everything that we could have tried, we have already done, right? With Steven Crowder back in 2015 starting the Change My Mind segments, and then Charlie Kirk starting the Prove Me Wrong segments, right? And then there have been years upon years, of videos, live streams, all kinds of shit, pointing out things, right, to get people to see the actual things that are going on. Okay? And the ones who are still on the left by now are the ones that cannot be reasoned with anyways. So, and this may be harsh, but here's the reality, okay? Here's the reality. We as humanity, right, we are an animal that is capable of such complex thought. So much so that we've been able to conjure and build skyscrapers. We've been able to build phones and all of these things. But as soon as we resort to animalistic behavior is when that's the only thing that you are seen as, right? And guess what? You act like an animal, you're going to be treated like an animal. It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay? And you have situations like how Irina was slaughtered, essentially, on a bus. And then little Logan Tipton, right, slaughtered as well. And then you have Logan Federico, who was shot in the head, right? All of them animals. Okay. And then you have, I think it was Minneapolis, right? Where a woman was beaten, almost killed, right? In the street. So these people cannot be reasoned with. The only thing to do now is to separate, right? And be prepared to defend yourself. Okay? Whenever you go out, be prepared to defend yourself, right? Find an everyday carry. I don't know, who all carries, but find something, okay? I've already put out videos on everyday carry, what it's for, what really works. And I've already put out self-defense videos and everything like that. I mean, firearms wise. And so I would highly advise you take a look at that. And if you guys happen to have any specific questions for me that you would like for me to answer, I'd be more than happy to do that. But get a gun, get ammo, train, right? Abide by the laws, okay? But absolutely be prepared to defend yourself, because these people don't care about your life, okay? They delight in seeing you dead. They delight in seeing your children dead, okay? And that's the most disgusting part about this all, is that these people have no humanity left, right? Everything that makes us human, that's why I was talking about complexive thought. Everything that makes us human has left, and now they're just animals, okay? It may be harsh to say, but it's reality. Let's continue.
You have to recognize what's happening in the evolution of this resistance that they're calling it, okay? If you've got multiple people, one being ring-led by somebody who said, let's dox these people, let's call for violence, and then you've got 10 separate vehicles boxing in federal agents, opening fire on those agents inside the vehicle of which they have coordinated and boxed in, and then that individual is getting shot in Chicago, a gun control city, it gets a little awkward. That's coordination. That's exactly what that is. But let's keep going. Agents return fire. Good. Wounding the suspect. Get better. A U.S. citizen previously flagged in a CBP intelligence bulletin for threatening agents online, who later drove herself to the hospital. No.
Bro, I understand the sentiment, but come on, bro. Come on, man. Stop with the small jabs, bro.
No officers were seriously injured, but officials described the situation as evolving, with special operations deployed to secure the area as local police reportedly refused to assist. And this is coming from the source of the Department of Homeland Security. This is not coming from somebody who just tweeted something out. This is official releases. Okay? You've got the police in Chicago.
Oh, and I actually forgot to mention this. I don't know why. We all know that violence has been ramping up from the left for a long time now. We know that. I mean, 4 years ago, Portland was burning for 3 months straight, I think. Yeah, over 90 days. I mean, and now Portland's burning for over 100 days now. So, anyways, we know that the violence from the left has been ramping up for a long time now. But what I don't see a lot of other YouTubers talking about is the Vincent situation. Vincent Mortoloro, I think is his name. He has a weird fucking last name. Ran 2 girls down, right? One Maria and another girl. All of them are high school students. And he actually ran these girls down, Maria specifically, because Maria was making fun of Charlie Kirk, right? And so, listen. And then there was also another incident where a man had planned to go to a LGBT bar and shoot at the bar, right? So we have violence on both sides that are ramping up. Okay. And this is exactly what I was telling you was going to happen. So we don't want to see violence, of course. We don't want to do that, right? But at the same time, we have to be prepared for it because we may have families we have to go back home to, right? I have a dog I have to take care of, and it's good. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be me at the end of the day. Okay, I'm going to make sure I'm protected. I've got the training, I've got the knowledge to be able to do so. But you see shit like this happening. It's going to start happening all across the nation, and this is so. Looking at the latter history of Rome, right? We're seeing exactly what happened in Rome. Okay, because Rome had a lot, and I do mean a lot of civil unrest before it fell. Okay, it started bringing in a bunch of illegals and everything like that, was replacing its military with illegals, and I mean just all kinds of shit, right? Same thing for its citizenry, and so, I mean, but it was also divided on politics as well, and this is exactly what we're seeing, right? Exactly what we're seeing with what's happening today, and I've said, and this isn't me being doom and gloom, but this is just me being realistic. I don't think our country has much life left. Okay, simply because we are essentially speed running the downfall of Rome. Okay, with how vast our technology is available to us today. AI about to sweep the nation and essentially wipe out thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs. Okay, automating almost everything essentially. I mean, I did a paper on this back a couple of semesters ago while I was in college. Right, we were taking I was taking a AI ethics class, and 40% of engineers will be replaced by 2030, I believe. Right? So that's exactly why I decided to drop out of college, because I knew that eventually automation was going to come for engineers. It's not just going to come for office jobs. It's going to come for those jobs as well. Right? They're already replacing truckers. Okay? That's terrifying. That is terrifying. And it should concern you. Right? Our economy is collapsing right now. The used car market is plummeting. Right? One of the biggest, or maybe not the biggest, but from what I see, right, the used car market will tell you how your market is doing. Right? If people don't have a lot of liquid assets, right, extra assets that they can spend on used cars, then the economy isn't doing good, right? And the very fact that used cars companies are going under, that's a huge problem. That is a huge problem. Okay. Of course, we all know about the job market. Okay. I don't have a job myself, right? As a disabled veteran, I don't have a job myself, right? So that's also another problem, right? The cost of living is continuing to go up, and it will continue to go up, right? So we have an economy collapse essentially coming. We have civil unrest ramping up, right? So what's the country to do at this point? Well, typically what happens at this point is major conflict, right? I mean, it's always been the same cycle every single time where something like this happens. There's always some kind of unification, right? So that's actually going to lead us into the next talking point. World War III. I thought for sure that Trump was going to get us into World War III with bombing Iran on behalf of Israel. Something that we should not have done, right? We shouldn't even be over there to begin with. But, Israel has a lot of let's say, hands in our government. So, thanks to Mossad. But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're not going to talk about that right now. So, this is from JD Delay. And I have been seeing that our president has been getting us ready, right? Because there have been a couple of things that have been changing within the United States military itself, right? They are starting to remove people who are overweight. Training regiments are changing, and I do remember quite a bit ago that for the Air Force, right? Because this is something different than what I went through. Trainees are starting to march now with rifles. Okay, that did not happen when I went through basic training. Okay, I went through basic training in 2017. Okay, so the fact that that is changing now really indicates that America is about to get into some shit. Okay, so just be aware that things are about to happen.
Hey everybody, how's it going? So we have a lot going on today. It looks like there might be some indications that we might be running into a World War III type of situation. Now, we all know that none of us want that. We all hope that it doesn't come down to that. War is an ugly, terrible thing, but there are indications that we might be getting led into a situation where they're preparing for it, it looks like. I understand that Pete Hegseth has from the beginning said that one of his main goals here is to have our war fighters ready for actual combat, ready for actual war, ready to go. And we don't have the most prepared military that we've ever had. We are making adjustments.
We don't. We haven't had people prepared for a long time. Okay. So couple of things, right? When I left, when I got out, there were some standards, right? They were lax, okay, but there were some standards. I do know that the physical fitness requirement was quite a bit lax, and that was due to COVID policies, right? However, ever since I've been out, I used to have a friend who worked in Middle East somewhere. I think it was near Dubai, and I always forget the name of it. But he worked as a contractor on the that Air Force base, and what he was seeing was that men had full beards. They had full beards, right? They hair standards. People could have all kinds of colored hair. There was a lax standard on hair off of the ears, right? And here's the thing. It insinuates, right, that we are not worried about anything, right, at that point. And so when you see things change and change drastically, those are indicators, and that's something you should really pay attention to, right? So.
And today he has a meeting with some of the top brass. It's an unprecedented meeting. To call everyone in person on this level is pretty crazy. There's a lot of people who are really worried. Like, one of the first comments is Haiti Alvarado, World War III against our own citizens. That doesn't even make sense. Do you understand what world war means? That, like, we are a nation. We are not the world. So war against our own citizens wouldn't be a world war. I want you to understand how stupid that was. That's not a bright question, bro. You got to think a little better than that. I love you, but come on, man. I know there's a lot of people that are really stressed out. I know there's a lot of people who feel like things are really bad in a lot of different ways, and the media is fueling a lot of this sort of fear bait. fear is one of those things that gets.
They've been talking about Civil War for a long time now, but no one has really talked about World War III for a little bit. Now, you've had your fear mongers for a long time now, and especially when Biden took office, or Biden and Skamala. So you had there was a lot of fear mongering, of course, and that's going to continue, right? There are people that are going to do clickbait shit like that, but there is a real concern now for escalated conflict. Well, one, with our involvement in the Middle East, right, with Israel and Iran, and then two, us getting involved with Venezuela. Now, on one hand, I would say that just by virtue of them sending dangerous criminals into our country, right, I would believe that that's an act of war. Do you guys agree? I would say that that's an act of war, right? Because it doesn't matter if they went and harmed our civilians or not. Just the potential of that happening, right, is in itself at the very least reckless and negligent, right? But Venezuela also has the biggest oil deposit, right, on the planet, and so it's kind of sus why we would really want to pick on Venezuela like that, right? Makes you really wonder. So when you see a lot of the biggest military leaders meeting all together at the same time with the president, there are some real concerns. There are some real questions that should be asked, and who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Listen, guys, I've seen enough war to know we don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it. Okay? I've seen enough dead faces. I don't want to see any more. Unfortunately, the powers that be, right? You could say that they love their resources, right? And they want to pursue that. But, the ones that suffer the most are the ones that are forced to go, right? It is what it is, but we don't want war. We don't want anything like that. So, just so I'm not rambling on, let's keep listening to JD.
It's a lot of people riled up. It's good for clicks and views and shit like that. So it's really important.
I'll say this though, if you're doing World War shit or World War III views for I'm fried apparently. If you're making videos, live streaming, right? World War III stuff for views, you're a piece of shit. You're an absolute piece of shit. Okay? Just saying, that's fear mongering, and that's taking advantage of people.
That we understand what the truth is, but there are some indications that we might be preparing for something big. And Fandalorian, I don't even know that would classify as a civil. I feel like listen, man, I don't want to get too deep into that because it's not what we're talking about tonight. But I went to Portland for this Antifa, mostly overwhelmingly peaceful, fucking violent riot. We were maybe 10 minutes there before we got absolutely surrounded by people trying to provoke us into violence. We are saying, you're glad that I'm safe. I love you, bro. Marcus said, united we stand, divided we fall. And there is a lot of division, and I would like to see an end to that division. The division does none of us. This morning, Donald Trump also gave a speech, and I believe this was right before they went in to have this top brass from all of the military meeting. And he says some things that kind of allude to the fact that they're preparing for something really big, you guys.
Or you will be subservient to something or someone. It's a truth as old as time.
So basically what he was talking about, it was a long interlude, but basically what he's talking about is how you need strength to have peace. You know, the idea that you can be a pacifist and work your way into peace is naive. It doesn't work because there are evil people out there. There will always be evil people out there.
And since waging war is so costly in blood and treasure, we owe our republic a military that will win any war we choose or any war that is thrust upon us. Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O.
That's lit! I like it! So here's the thing is, we just changed the name from the Department of Defense to the Department of War.
I thought he said Trump spoke here, right? But it's just Pete. So am I missing something? Because I'm not seeing Trump here, right? So, but what is he? I am assuming, right? It has something to do with the violent gang members that they sent over in our country. But I'm not exactly sure. Do you guys know anything different? It would be good to know. But see what this comment says.
At me as he runs up and he's like, "Yo, JD, what's up, man?" And I'm like, "What's good, bro?" And we're at. I literally have not been on X for very long actively. I will get that fixed. I just threw that out there because I know it's my smallest platform.
Gender quotas based on historic so-called firsts. The way the answer to that is no, or even yes, but then we're doing something wrong.
Yes!
Because my son is no more important than any other American citizen who dons the cloth of our nation. He is no more important than your son. All precious souls made in the image and likeness of God.
So I just kind of wonder, with these changes that are happening, what is that going to make our military look like? You know what I'm saying? I would hope better, right? Because we don't need mentally ill people in our military. Don't need it, okay? If you don't know what gender you are, how am I going to trust you? Coming from a veteran, how am I supposed to trust you, right? To get my six, to carry me out of a combat situation, to not mentally break down when you don't even know what gender you are. Okay. And I would even go so far as to say that women don't belong in the military at all. Okay. Now, that's where I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to, beliefs there. But it's always been the duty of men to build, maintain, and fight for nations. Okay. That's the duty of men. There's no place for anyone when it comes to conflict, when it comes to war, when it comes to violence. But if there's anyone that's going to do it, it's going to be the men. All right. Our women need to be safe. Our children need to be safe. And so if there's anyone that needs to go, it's the men. And that's exactly why I do agree, right? I do agree with selective service, because you come to a different appreciation for the country when you go to serve, right? Of course, there was a lot of things that I had no understanding of until I put on that uniform, right? And if everyone had that understanding, this country would be so much better. When you go overseas, right, and you see how life is overseas, how drastically different life is for them, you begin to really appreciate the things that we have here in America. We live in the most privileged of nations and the most privileged of times, right? And yet, the majority of people don't really understand that very well. Okay? and that's why I agree with that. But on the second, on the other hand, too, is that I 100% believe in voluntary service. Okay, believe in voluntary service because I also think about Nam. My grandfather was Vietnam. He was a combat mechanic, right? Purple Heart recipient. I mean, this guy's been through some shit, right? And so I don't like the idea of then forcing someone to go, but at the same time, someone has to, right? And that's where the men must step up, right? So it's getting really, really interesting, just to see how this all tracks, how this all plays out. But I do see us getting involved with Venezuela. Venezuela has already said as much, that they're going to retaliate with force. They're already training their citizens, and I would imagine that they're going to start arming their citizens here pretty soon, right? And so we're already gearing up for something, right? It just remains to have been seen what exactly we're gearing up for. So, oh shit, we're in for some rough times, guys. I mean, we're already in rough times right now, but we're in for some really, really rough times. I just wonder, where this is going to lead us, and I'm sure you are as well. So let's take a look at more of this speech here. Let's see if there's anything else that we see.
Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level, we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Today, at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment. These tests, they'll look familiar. They'll resemble the Army Expert Physical Fitness Assessment or the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%.
Yes!
That's a good change. That is a really good change. It's an absolutely good change. I support that, actually. So you have, obviously you're going to have different standards for both men and women, right? I think that's incredibly unfair, right? Because we should not be expecting less of women. We should be holding them to the same standard as the men. Listen, when I was going through basic, I was blown away by this chick, right? Because there was a chick that did 72 push-ups. 72 push-ups. This chick did 72 push-ups on her PT PT test, right? Most women that I've seen in my time in, most women in the Air Force could barely do 35, 40 push-ups. But this chick did 72 push-ups, right? So we got to hold the same standards for both men and women, okay? Because what that is going to do is that's not just going to eliminate the men that don't deserve to be there, but the women that don't deserve to be there either, right? Our fighting force needs to be effective. And if it's not effective, we're just a clown show, right? And I'm glad that change is happening. But on the other side of that too, why now? Why now? You know what I'm saying? Why is that just now changing? I understand you could say that it's a different administration, right? There are some things that are changing, and you could definitely make an argument for that. Sure, sure, but why is it that this is just now happening at the same time that we're getting involved with Venezuela? Is what I'm asking. right? Because this could have been the first or second month, right, in Trump's administration. Why now, here in the 10th month of the administration, is this happening, right? Maybe I'm, reading too deep about it, but standards need to change, because it really disappointed me, right? And listen, I gotta take accountability too, because I was one of them, right? I was one of the big bodies. All right, gotta admit that, right? I was one of the big bodies. I'd let myself go. I'm not gonna make excuses for myself, right? I had a lot of mental stuff going on, and I let myself go, right? But there were a lot of big bodies, and I'm glad that they are whipping that into shape, essentially. But really just makes you wonder why we're doing that, and especially combat, right? Very specifically combat oriented stuff, right? It's not just run a mile and a half in 13 minutes 36 seconds. No, but you're going to do that, right? You're also going to put some gear on. You're going to carry maybe over fireman carry your battle buddy 100 yards and back in a specific amount of time. You're going to do some pull-ups with some gear on. You're going to do that. You're going to hit a metric there, right? And do some extra combat stuff. It makes you beg the question: why is it that we're doing quote unquote extra stuff for everyday service members? Which I may be reading that wrong, but
if you want to send people into dangerous situations like war zones, and you want to put unnecessary restrictions on them that put them in danger, you are not fit to lead our military.
At every level, either you can meet the standard, either you can do the job, either you are disciplined, fit, and trained, or you are out.
Okay. Yeah, so at every level. Not just special warfare, but every level means regular military as well. That's what I'm getting from it. Maybe you guys are getting something different, but that's what I'm getting from it, right? So you're going to be combat ready at every level. Okay, that means finance. That means medical. That means personnel, right? Personnel squadrons. Okay, I'm just speaking from Air Force terminology here, but cybersecurity, maintenance, all those guys, combat ready. Now, here's something to mention too, right? We had what were called augmentees when I was in Korea. I was security forces, right? So we were pretty much the infantry for the Air Force, right? We were security, we were ground combat, we were law enforcement, and so whenever we were in the DFPs, the defensive fighting positions, that's when we had augmentees, right? And these guys could be anything, really. They could be firefighters, right? They could be finance. They could be maintenance, right? They could be anything. So I just wonder if this is going to be, this combat readiness is essentially for everyone, right? And if it is, then that just makes you wonder more about what we're getting into.
And that's why today, at my direction, and this is the first of 10 Department of War directives that are arriving at your commands as we speak and in your inbox. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I stand corrected. Okay. It's just combat oriented roles. But that would also mean MOSs like MPs, infantry, Cav Scouts, stuff like that. And I'm just using Army terminology here. It wasn't Army, I was Air Force. So, but the only thing I could really say about that is that maybe security forces, security forces, Ravens. Now daggers, they are a shred out, right, of spec ops. So they were a spec ops without really being spec ops. If that makes sense. It's kind of like Ravens. Ravens were a shred out. They were doing spec ops like stuff, but they weren't really considered spec ops. So I'm expecting, roles like that. Okay, that makes sense. Because I didn't really see the whole finance personnel being able to do a grouping of a few inches at 100 yards. I wasn't expecting that. That would be a whole different situation. I'm never going to finance again if that guy's handling my paperwork. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I'm glad I was corrected there. Let's see what else he says.
Today, do y'all think that war isn't toxic? Do y'all think that the type of mindset you have to go into to be ready to take every motherfucker in your way off the planet with extreme prejudice and do so in a manner that ends up not getting your fellow fucking service members killed? Do y'all think that's not toxic? Do you think we need a fucking person in charge of that shit who's gonna go through and just hug people into being good warfighters? Fuck that shit.
Now, we've done this in many places already.
I will say, though, now, when I was going through basic, I was expecting essentially to get my shit kicked in. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting to, literally get the shit kicked out of me. And come to find out that wasn't nearly what happened. I found it to be an embarrassment, really, that our military was sending people through basic like that, right? I know when I was going through that, they couldn't even use profanity at you. They couldn't even cuss at you. That's how PG it had gotten, right? Whereas back in the day, back in my day, the 70s, 80s, and 90s even, you had MTIs, right? Air Force terminology. That were, they were caving motherfuckers in. They were, Now a lot of that changed after the sex scandals, because that's when senior airmen and staff sergeants were MTIs, and now it's E6s, tech sergeants, and mass sergeants. But the fact that may be changing now is also indicative of something happening, right? Because if they're getting tougher on basic training, something's up. That's something also to pay attention to, other than trainees marching with rifles. I mean, for the Air Force, because that's what we never did that when I was going through. There were specific points in time where when we would have our rifles, right? Like Beast Week, basic expeditionary airman skills training. Yeah. Because and during that week we would do combat stuff. What are you saying about JD? What do you mean specifically? because I'm not really saying anything about JD. JD's just covering, you know, this whole stuff. I am in agreement with you know, quite a bit of what JD says. Some things I disagree with him on, and that's just how things are. But um um a lot of what JD is saying, right, in his live stream here, I agree with, right. There needs to be there. Yeah, so I wanted to see cuz JD was covering, he did a live stream on a something possibly really big happening. Yeah, I'm glad you do. And thanks for joining, by the way. I hope you're having a good day. So I just happened to have saw this, right? And I wanted to talk about a few things, right? Before at the start of the stream, we were talking about well, not that. We were talking about the Charlie Kirk situation, and then we went over to the Chicago Portland situation, and now we are talking about a potential for World War III, right? Or some kind of major conflict, right? So that's what we're talking about now. But what JD is saying here, right, is that our military, right, this is coming from a veteran, our military needs to be held to a specific standard, right? And I would say, especially for our combat roles, I would say that those standards need to be of the highest male standards there are, right? So let me break some things down for you, right? For Ravens within the security forces career field, you have to maintain a 90%, or you have to maintain a 90 PT score, right? That's bare minimum to stay within that shred out. Okay, that means you have to be absolutely fit. All right, you have to be fit to stay there, right? So, and there should not be male female standards. There shouldn't be, right? Because everyone needs to be held to the same standard, right? We want to make sure that our military is effective, and we want to make sure that, you know, our service members are capable of doing the job, right? Especially in combat roles, because a lot of what I saw from other YouTubers that were covering special operations units, right, where females are involved, was incredibly embarrassing. Incredibly embarrassing. I was watching someone streaming in Portland and was just gazing around. What do you mean gazing around? I do know that JD went down to Portland, and so did Nick Shirley, and I've been covering both of their situations. I can't remember if I did a live stream over JD's. Actually, I don't think I did either a video or a live stream over JD's situation, but JD did go down to Portland and he tried to have conversations, but was almost immediately shut down, right, because of how violent these animals are. And Nick was kind of done the same way, you know. So back to our military, right? So our military needs to be held to a standard. Looking pretty much, seeing what else was on. Well, hey man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you stopping by. I'm hoping that, you know, whatever we talk about here is going to help you in some way. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you. So our military needs to be held to a standard, and I would argue that it needs to be held to the highest standard possible, right? To be a warrior, you have to be capable of protecting the nation, right? when I was in Korea, I did a 8 mile obstacle course, right? And that was fucking rough. Okay, and I was doing 5Ks without breaking a sweat, right? So, and this isn't to gas me up, right? But this is to tell you that if you want to serve, you have to be absolutely prepared and capable of doing so, right? And since then, I, let myself go and became a fat piece of shit. And that's all me. That's all me. I let that happen, right? And I became unfit, right, for the job. And so, but this male female shit can't do it. Can't do it, right? Because let me tell you how it is. The male standards are here, right? And the female standards are way down here, okay? The females have to run their 1.5 miles, or at least for the Air Force, they have to run their 1.5 miles in like 16 minutes, I think. And they have to do like 30 push-ups or 30. No, I think it's 30 sit-ups and like 20 something push-ups. And my dog can do that. My dog can do that. And it's just it's absolutely embarrassing. And when I tell you, and this is what I was talking about earlier, when I was going through basic, there was a chick that did 70 push-ups, 72 push-ups. So you can't tell me that there aren't women out there that can't do the job. I know for a fact there are. Okay. The thing is that you have to be an exception to the rule, right? And average women cannot cut it in the military. They can't cut it, right? Because it's not their place to, right? I mean, war is no place for anyone, right? But if anyone's going to go to fight for the nation, let it be the men. That's our job, right? And we got to make sure that we're held to the highest standard possible, especially when it comes to combat roles, right? So things are changing, guys. Things are absolutely changing. It seems like some big stuff is happening, right? Standards are being changed, obviously, is what we're talking about here. But there are other things that are happening, right? I mean, specific talks with about Venezuela. So yeah, I'm just as curious to see where this goes, just as you are. So I want to go ahead and take a look at the rest of this speech here.
And that's why today, at my direction, I'm issuing new policies that will overhaul the IG, EO, and MEO processes. I call it the no more walking on eggshells policy.
Yes! Yes! I love that. Amanda said, this is making my dad thank you. Huge love to you. Huge love to your dad. Thank you guys for being here.
We are liberating commanders and NCOs. We are liberating you. We are overhauling an inspector general process, the IG, that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. We're doing the same with the equal opportunity and military equal opportunity policies, the EO and MEO at our department. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants.
Bro, anonymous complaints is the most bitch-ass shit ever.
Whoa. Hang on. Hang on a minute. He's kind of shoot. He's gonna jump in the gun there. There was a reason for anonymous stuff, right? So kind of let you guys know, every time a commander, right, is asking for some feedback, you can put an anonymous, right, complaint or an anonymous stuff in there, right? And the reason why a lot of people did the anonymous stuff is because they knew if they if they didn't, then a lot of the higher leadership would absolutely shit on you. Okay. All right. I want to tell you how it is in the military, and this is real shit. Leadership is embarrassing. All right. Absolute. I mean, most of them are fuck ups. Most of them are. All right. My my flight chief could not park a truck to save his life. Right. Okay. I remember my last EPR, enlisted performance report. Right. They gave me a 2. Right. From a 1 to 5. Right. 5 being promote this guy now, to 1 being this guy shouldn't be a staff sergeant at all. They gave me a 2. Right. And so, the very people that decide to give me a 2 on my APR that could not park a truck to save. Well, I mean, it's just one specific person, and he was my flight chief. But he couldn't park a truck to save his life. Right. There was a whole open parking lot, and this guy parked right on the middle. right. Well, I should say right on top of one of the divider lines. Right. In an open parking lot. And this guy was telling me that I don't deserve staff sergeant. Now, at the time, I was a fat body, and I was definitely a shitbag, but that was burnout too, right? Just at how I was being treated, not just regular everyday Air Force, but the fact that I had refused the vaccine, I was also treated pretty poorly. Yeah, so the leadership. Now, you can have good leadership. I'm not going to make it all negative, right? There is some good leadership out there. Like, I will never, ever forget Colonel Shepard. I will never forget him. This dude was a family man. He was out 2-3 o'clock in the morning, taking over for us, giving us a rest and taking over our job, right? This man was a leader, okay? He was an actual leader, and I respected the shit out of him. Right? And this commander, he actually dabbed me up. Bro, he dabbed me up on the way out. Right? I was PCSing, I was permanent change of station, right? And this guy said, "Bro, I'll see you later." Dabbed me up just like that, and I was out the base. I will never forget that commander. Never. Because he was the only good commander that I had. Every other commander was terrible. And this is exactly why people report anonymous stuff, right? So doing away with, anonymous complaints, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Another thing, too, that a lot of people don't really talk about is mental health, right? When it comes to the military, it's conceal, don't feel, right? You start talking about mental health, and you're clowned on. You really are clowned on, and that's a huge problem, right? And mental health comes from that when things need to change, but you put your name out there to change it, and they clown on you for it, right? So, don't agree with that.
Anonymous snitching, it's like you saw it in prison all the time. People would put in a kite on you, and they wouldn't have to put a name on it, and they'd fuck your shit up. Coward shit, bro. Coward. Sign that off with your chest, little bitch. You know what I'm saying? Dark Mermaid said some people in here need the binky, so we're going to whip the binky out. If you are in here and you need the binky...
Now, okay, so I agree to a certain extent, right? Because if you're being a little bitch about about complaints, right? Maybe about maybe a fellow airman, right? Or maybe a staff sergeant, maybe you're a flight chief. Just go and talk to them, right? Go and tell it to their face that there's a problem. Okay? Don't just go and anonymously complain about shit that you can go and talk to someone about, right? I absolutely hate that shit. Because I'll tell you, my last year in, I remember I was talking about some political stuff. And there was someone who had anonymously complained, right? Because I was talking about men and women's roles, right? And because we were already having a conversation about men and women, right? And I know I know who it was. I know who it was. But they would, of course, because it's anonymous, right? But this person had went to the flight chief. Instead of coming to me about it, right, and talking with me about it, they decided to anonymously complain, right, to leadership. And that's where I kind of agree with JD here. Stop being a bitch, okay? If you have a problem with someone, let them know you have a problem with somebody, right? You're in the military for a reason, okay? And that's to hold yourself to a standard. And if you're going to be a coward and not address something, not confront someone, not be fearless, right? Or maybe not fearless, but courageous in that manner, and let someone that you know, or let someone know that you have a problem with them, you don't deserve to be there, right? It's a different story when you have a complaint for a commander, right? And we all know how leadership is. I was talking about it earlier, right? Leadership isn't that great. So, yeah.
You know who you are. I had these made. This says, JD hurt my feelings. You need a little go on the binky. The little baby need the binky when you get a little on the binky. Did JD hurt your feelings?
We're not civilians. Racist has been.
One love. I'm going to be posting on Patreon tonight. I love you. Big love and respect to your family, man. Thank you for being here. Absolutely love you, brother.
No more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells.
Oh man, yeah. That actually reminds me of a whole different situation, guys. This is something that I want to talk about too, because we were talking about men and women stuff. Listen, guys, I can't tell you how many men in the military had their careers absolutely derailed because some woman had falsified an accusation against him. Matter of fact, I've heard so many stories about it when I was in Germany, and then I witnessed it myself. I witnessed it myself when I went to the 319th in Grand Forks. There's a guy that I knew who had, gotten involved with a girl, right, who was also another airman, and she falsified an accusation. He was under investigation for months, and they kicked him out. Even after they sent her to another base and she had already admitted that she lied about it. They still kicked him out. Bro, what? So, absolutely. There needs to be criminal charges for that, though, right? There needs to be criminal charges for falsifying accusations, right? Because it's everywhere. I know I've heard so many stories of women who would falsify accusations just to get out of a deployment or go to a different base, as I was talking about, just a couple of minutes ago, right? So I'm glad that is going to change. I really hope it does, and it changes soon, because that needs to be done away with. Again, standards. So that's good.
Of course, being a racist has been illegal in our formation since 1948. The same goes for sexual harassment. Both are wrong and illegal. Mm-hmm. Those kinds of infractions will be ruthlessly enforced.
Right.
But telling someone to shave or get a haircut or to get in shape or to fix their uniform or to show up on time or to work hard, that's exactly the kind of discrimination we want. We are not civilians. You are not civilians. You are set apart for a distinct purpose. So we, as a department, need to stop acting and thinking like civilians and get back to basics and put the power back in the hands of commanders and NCOs. Commanders and NCOs who make life and death decisions. Commanders and NCOs who enforce standards and ensure readiness. Commanders and NCOs who in this War Department have to look in the mirror and they have to pass the golden rule test. My kids, your kids, America's sons and daughters.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. 100% agree with that. Listen, you are in the military for a reason, right? There is no more. There's some individuality because you're your own person, right? But there's no more I. No more of that. That shit went out the door as soon as you got off the bus to go to basic. Okay, there's no more of that. You are in a uniform. There is one team, one fight. All right. You're held to a standard, a very specific standard, and that should be maintained at all times, right? So, the only time you're individual is when you're out of that uniform. Okay? So, this, dude, because I saw it all the time when I was in too. This women's groups, right? Men's groups. This shit shouldn't really exist. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was in, right, my ex-wife had went to a women's group, right, for security forces, and I thought that was really interesting. So when I tried to start mine, I was told that it was sexist. You know what I'm saying? And so just by virtue of that, there shouldn't really be any group at all, right? For the career field, there should be a meeting for the career field, man or woman. You know what I'm saying? So we shouldn't be doing this man-woman shit. We shouldn't be doing this white-black shit. We shouldn't be doing this Christian-Jew shit. You know what I'm saying? There should all be one thing, right? And that's as soon as you put that uniform on, okay? Everything goes out the window, right? You can be an individual when you take that uniform off. And that's just how it is. That's just how it is. If you can't do that, then don't do it. Do not join the military, okay? I'm really hoping that, this makes a really good change. How we all know we all know how I view the military, it being a fucking clown show. We all know that. But I'm really hoping that this makes a positive impact. So, I know you left a comment, buddy. I can't really see it right now. I don't know why I can't see it. It says it's in there, but it doesn't look like it's loaded just yet. And I don't know why my chat isn't popping up for me automatically on my screen. But it might have to take a minute or two for it to actually load here. Okay, well, they left. I don't know what the whole thing about that was. But thanks for joining anyways. Thanks for joining and leaving a comment. I appreciate that. All right, so some interesting things are happening, guys. Some interesting things are happening. Make sure you guys do your own research, right? Do your due diligence, okay? I will definitely keep you guys updated on more that comes out, I guess. But there's one thing that I really want to leave you guys with, and that is preparedness. Please, 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 please make sure that you are prepared for anything. Okay. Our economy is collapsing. Okay. People are getting violent. and we may see we may see another major war. Well, I guess if you can call the war on terror a major war, but we can see there's a potential for major conflict, right? So just be prepared and as ready as you can be. All right. I will try to help you guys out the best that I can. That's why I've already put out all of the videos that I have. And again, if you happen to have any questions or anything that you want me to talk about or cover, please do so. I'll be more than happy to do that for you. But I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. The peppers more than likely has to go outside. And so I also have to hop off here as well. But thanks guys for joining. Hopefully, what we talked about here has helped you and can help you, and that's great if it has. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe as well. And thank you to all of those that were engaged in the you guys can't see it here on the screen, but I can see my chat here. Thank you to all of those that were engaged and watched the live stream. I truly appreciate that, guys. And if you need me for anything, please reach out. I'm always here. So until next time, guys, hopefully, like I said, I would really like to try to live stream every Monday and every Friday just to kind of catch up on anything that I might have missed through outside of my videos. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you and I love you all. I wish you a lovely day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.